My, it were just like her, what she said, he answered. She give me head a bit of a rub and laughed, and she says, lad, thou can have all the secrets thou wants. I've knowed thee 12 year.
How did you know about Colin?
Asked Mary. Everybody as knowed about Mr. Craven knowed there was a little lad as was like to be a cripple. And they knowed Mr. Craven didn't like him to be talked about. Folks is sorry for Mr. Craven because Mrs. Craven was such a pretty young lady and they were so fond of each other. Mrs. Medlock stops in our cottage whenever she goes to Thwaite, and she doesn't mind talking to mother before us children, because she knows us has been brought up to be trusty. How did they find out about him? Martha was in fine trouble, and the last time she came home, she said they'd heard him fretting, and they was asking questions, and she didn't know what to say. Mary told him her story about the midnight wuthering of the wind which had wakened her, and about the faint, far-off sounds of the complaining voice which had led her down the dark corridors with her candle, and had ended with her opening of the door of the dimly lighted room with the carven four-posted bed in the corner. When she described the small ivory-white face and the strange black-rimmed eyes, Dickon shook his head. Them's just like his mother's eyes, only hers was always laughing. They say, he said, they say as Mr. Craven can't bear to see him when he's awake, and it's because his eyes is so like his mother's and yet look so different in his miserable bit of a face.
Do you think he wants to die?
Whispered Mary. No, but he wishes he'd never been born. Mother, she says that's the worst thing on earth for a child. Them as is not wanted scarce ever thrives. Mr. Craven, he'd buy anything as money could buy for the poor lad, but he'd like to forget as he's on earth. For one thing, he's afraid he'll look at him some day and find he's growed hunchback.
Colin's so afraid of it himself that he won't sit up, said Mary. He says he's always thinking that if he should feel a lump coming, he should go crazy and scream himself to death.
He oughtn't to lie there thinking things like that, said Dickon. No lad could get as well as thought them sort of things. The fox was lying on the grass close by him, looking up to ask for a pat now and then, and Dickon bent down and rubbed his neck softly and thought a few minutes in silence. Presently he lifted his head and looked round the garden. When first we got in here, he said, it seemed like everything was grey. Look round now and tell me if thou doesn't see a difference. Mary looked and caught her breath a little.
Why, she cried, the grey wall is changing. It is as if a green mist were creeping over it. It's almost like a green gauze veil.
Aye, said Dickon, and it'll be greener and greener till the grey's all gone. Can they guess what I was thinking?
I know it was something nice,
said Mary eagerly.
I believe it was something about Colin.
I was thinking that if he was out here, he wouldn't be watching for lumps to grow on his back. He'd be watching for buds to break on the rose bushes, and he'd likely be healthier, explained Dickon. I was wondering if us could ever get him in the humour to come out here and lie under the trees in his carriage.
I've been wondering that myself. I've thought of it almost every time I've talked to him, said Mary. I've wondered if he could keep a secret and I wondered if we could bring him here without anyone seeing us. I thought perhaps you could push his carriage. The doctor said he must have fresh air, and if he wants us to take him out, no one dare disobey him. He won't go out for other people, and perhaps they will be glad if he will go out with us. He could order the gardeners to keep away so they wouldn't find out." Dickon was thinking very hard as he scratched Captain's back. "It'd be good for him, I'll warrant," he said. "Yous 'ud not be thinking he'd better never been born. Us'd be just 2 children watching a garden grow, and he'd be another. 2 lads and a little lass just looking on at the springtime. I warrant it to be better than doctor's stuff. He's been lying in his room so long, and he's always been so afraid of his back that it's made him queer," said Mary. "He knows a good many things out of books, but he doesn't know anything else. He says he's been too ill to notice things, and he hates going out of doors and hates gardens and gardeners. But he likes to hear about this garden because it is secret. I daren't tell him much, but he said he wanted to see it." "Us'll have him out here some time for sure," said Dickon. "I could push his carriage well enough. Has thou noticed how the robin and his mate has been working while we've been sitting here? Look at him perched on that branch wondering where it'd be best to put that twig he's got in his beak." He made one of his low whistling calls, and the robin turned his head and looked at him inquiringly, still holding his twig. Dickon spoke to him as Ben Weatherstaff did, but Dickon's tone was one of friendly advice.